Hello and welcome to Beachview, our podcast about different things and/or stuff.
Hello, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about a movie. We decided to do a creepy movie because Halloween is coming up. So we wanted to get into the spirit of things.
Yep.
So our movie today is The Thing, the 1982 version.
Yeah, and we're gonna be doing a bunch of creepy or Halloween adjacent stuff for the month of October.
That's right. I can't wait.
Yep, so, this is a famous horror film, a classic even, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely a classic. So John Carpenter created this film, and there's many versions of this. So I don't know if the original one, but I think the original one was 1951. And it was based on the story Who Goes There, which I lost the author of that.
Okay, so yeah, it's based on a 1938 novella by John W. Campbell Jr. And, so I take it you were doing some research into the background of this too, and also found out that there was an adaptation in 1951.
Yes, so I was surprised to learn that because I thought this was the first version of it. So that was very interesting. I knew the novella was old, much older than this film, but I did not know that there was a 1951 version.
Yep. And what'd you think of it? Just general thoughts.
So I liked it. I thought it was, per 1982, I thought it was probably, I don't know if it was cutting edge for the time, but the graphics, I shouldn't say the graphics, the special effects were really, they're funny now. Like, I think that at the time it was probably like really gory and like kind of violent, but when you watch it now, it doesn't, it wasn't scary to me. I mean, there was still that aspect of suspense. But because the special effects were like from 1982, it's just very like, it kind of went from, I think, creepy to campy, and I just thought that was, cinema gold. Like, to watch these older productions, I think are really, it's fun because you can see like, the filmmakers and kind of how they did things then. And that to me is the interesting part. Like, just for its production value and the cinematography, like, I really enjoyed it. I didn't really, like, the story was creepy, and the thing itself was, like, creepy, but it was so, like, interesting to see the special effects that I thought it was funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really get that here. I
No?
think they're, like, really well done, the effects.
Well, yeah, they were well done, but like when you look at it now, to me it's funny now, because you're like, whoa, that was like it back then, and now you're like, we have so much other, CGI and all this stuff now.
Like, there are certainly some, like, practical effects that, like, do not hold up.
Yeah.
And are definitely, like, that's funny now. I don't think this is in that case. Like, I think this
You don't think so?
Yeah, I think this still holds up fine. Like, honestly, I don't know that, like, a CGI version of it would look any better.
No, okay.
Particularly when they're, like, dissecting it.
Well, I'm talking about, like, the blood looks like it's just pure cane syrup with red food coloring. You know what I mean? Like blood today looks different than it did in 1982 in movies. Like, it looks like bright red. It looks like candy. Like, I just thought that part was kind of funny. Like, I think you're right. Like, when they're dissecting the thing and everything, like, that still looks pretty cool. But the, like, just like whenever the head was like crawling across the floor, like, that just looked like so fake. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's like a cheesy thing to do anyway.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, yeah.
I'm not sure that's the effect so much as, like, the idea itself,
Well, to me, it was the effect because it looked, like, so incredibly fake, Like, it didn't look like if you had that in a movie today, well, first of all, it would still be cheesy, like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But if you did that in a movie today, it would look much more realistic. And that's what I'm comparing, like, that to. Yeah.
I don't know about that. I think in this case, the practical effect would hold up better, but...
Okay, well, we'll agree to disagree, but I did think it was funny.
Yeah, I mean, because that's definitely, like, standout here, though, is the effect work.
Yes. And I absolutely loved the cinematography. I love the old movies and how, when I say old, I mean, like, from this era. I know there are movies that are much older than that.
Yeah, but also this is 40 years old.
Yeah,
so.
well, right, yeah. But I love the cinematography where, like, the lighting and, like, the artistic, like, cuts of the shots and, like, you know what I mean? Like, I love when they're showing them, like, in the little camp thing or the research lab, whatever. And it's, like, super dark and all you can see is him, like, I think it was Kurt Russell, like, lit up with, you know, just a lantern or whatever light he was using. Like, those kinds of, like, really artsy, like, darkness with the light and the fire. Like, I love, like, that kind of cinematography. And to me, it's like, you know, that was very common, like, for this time. And we talked about this before where, like, I feel like filming now doesn't hit that same level of what it was then for the cinematography and those, like, artsy shots.
Yeah, and especially the lighting you brought up.
Yes.
That's definitely something that filmmaking from this era can do better than newer stuff.
Totally agree. I absolutely love the lighting. I honestly went into this movie thinking, like, well, first of all, like, I was watching it, like, late at night, like, I was up by myself, and I was thinking, I probably shouldn't have been watching a creepy movie, like, by myself in the dark. But as I got into it, I was like, oh, this isn't scary like that kind of scary.
Yeah,
It's more like sci-fi horror kind of thing, which doesn't, like, scare me. But that is to say, there were still, like, suspenseful parts. So, like, at the end of the film, where we're like, what are they going to do? You know, I was still, like, waiting to see, okay, what's going to happen? Are they all just going to die? You know, like, so it's kind of that type of, like, suspense, but not scary.
Yeah, I didn't think it was scary either. And I think it was going for more of a, like, suspenseful, like you were saying. And particularly, like, more of a, like, character-focused thing. Like, trying to get into the characters' like headspace and their paranoia.
Yes. And I like that. I really enjoy that with these older movies. And I want to particularly note the music. So the sounds, I don't know, what do you call that? Like, not the sound effects, but like the composition, I guess.
Yeah.
For the film. Yeah, like the soundtrack. I thought like the music, like really, again, for that time period in film, it was very, you know, artistically done. I love like the suspenseful music that's like just very I don't know, it's just, to me it's just like artful. I don't know what other way to describe it.
Heavy on the synths in a good way, I think.
Yes. And I thought like the whole movie was put together like so well. Despite it being this like I said, campy kind of like horror sci-fi set in Antarctica. Like, you know, like I would not think that I would like a film like this, but just for the production value, I was like, oh, I really like this.
Yeah, I think the production was good. I will say, I thought the plot was really weak.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's good sections here, but, like, it's slow to get going. It's paced kind of weirdly.
Yeah.
And there's just sort of, like once that, one guy gets all paranoid, there's, like, a rather long gap between him, like, doing that and then going on his rampage.
Yes.
And it's just, like, yeah, there's a lot of, like, weird, plotting here that it takes a while to really get going.
Yeah, it definitely does. Especially like the beginning, it's just like showing, you know, like icy landscape and helicopters and, you know, I'm kind of like, okay, when are we going to get into this? Like, what is the thing, you know? But I think as an adaptation of a novella, like, I think it did a good job. It just was, yeah, the plot definitely was weak. The dialogue, I mean, there wasn't a ton of dialogue, you know?
Yeah.
So it was kind of one of those, you know, I think like take it for what it is, a 1982 adaptation. You know what I mean? Like, but again, I just thought it was, I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely has its high points. Yeah, has a story and like a lot of the characters, like they try to characterize them, but like by the end it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, exactly. The character development wasn't like exactly there.
It's like, you know, they'll establish characters as having these traits, and then once we're in it, it doesn't matter. These are just like characters. They're not like, they don't have any like real defined traits from that point on.
No, they don't. But I kind of liked how they show, you know, like Kurt Russell's kind of like this grumbly guy, like drinking alcohol, like right from the start. You know, you have like I think it was Childs, the character Childs maybe, that was like dancing around the music, and like they asked him, was it him? They asked him to turn it down.
No, that was the cook. That was a different guy.
Oh, okay. Okay, that wasn't Childs. Okay. They asked him to turn it down. He's like, okay, and then he doesn't, you know, so he's kind of like the goofy, you know, like
right, yeah, but all of that's like dropped by the time
the
thing shows
up.
So
it is, and by the end of it, when they're all like in the room trying to figure out who is still human, basically. I was kind of like, I don't even remember like what each of these characters,
yeah,
what they do. You know, it was kind of that level of they just dropped it.
Yeah, because there's quite a bit of characters, and like a lot of them don't really matter.
Yeah, and they don't really go into they kept mentioning like the Norwegians, but they don't really like go into like the whole, we're set in Antarctica, we have this like station, the Norwegians have a station, here's what we're doing. Like they don't really get into like what each of the groups is doing.
Yeah, well, the Norwegians were researching the alien.
Well, yeah, but then they show up there and it's like all carnage, and so there's no like oh, we need to get in touch with whomever and let them know the Norwegians are all dead. You know what I mean? Like,
well, the comms were out. They tried
that. Makes more sense. Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes more sense. But it was just, to me, they didn't explain it well. Like, it wasn't like, why were the Norwegians there in the first place besides investigating an alien?
I mean,
was that their only reason?
Well, okay, so they don't say that, but it's
That's
just like
what I'm
a given.
saying.
You know, there's Antarctic research stations in real life.
Yeah.
Like, that do actual, like, scientific work.
Yeah.
It's just, like, assumed they're doing some research stuff. It's not important what.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They don't, like, go into, like, they just kept talking about the Norwegians, but they're not like, okay, what are they both doing there? Why are they talking about, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't, I like a backstory. Like, I want to know what the Norwegians were researching. I want to know what these people were researching.
They found out about the alien.
But they were researching something before the alien, like...
I don't think so. I think, like, literally they found out, oh, there's an alien here, we're researching that.
Oh, I didn't get that. Like, I thought, like, they were already there and then the alien shows up and then they were researching the alien.
No, because, they found out about that, the giant spaceship that was under the ice.
Yeah. So you think they were there specifically for that?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, they could have let the other people know, is what I'm saying. Come on now. You're on one big block of ice.
Right.
But I like, though, like you said, that the plot was pretty slow. But I like a lot of movies like this where it's intentionally slow paced, like building up to that suspense. So it kind of like fit the mood, I guess. But I do agree with you that, I mean, it was slow, you know, but I think it kind of went with that sort of genre, and it was okay.
Yeah, I think it's not just slow, it's weirdly paced. Like, there's a lot of just relatively dead space in terms of, like, the plot during the opening bits, and it's not even, like, I don't think it's even like, oh, this is, like, interesting, you know, even if it's not advancing the plot, I think it's just kind of there.
Yeah, I got you.
But yeah, so you want to get into a plot synopsis, or you have more to add here?
Oh, I was just going to add that I think there was I know there were other adaptations. I want to say there was like a 2011 one.
Yes, that's a prequel. I looked it up.
Okay, it was on Netflix and then now it's not.
Ah.
I was trying to like watch that too, but I could not find it. But anyway, I thought that was interesting that like even up until like 2011 it was like still going. I don't know if there's another one or not after that, but
There was a 2002 video game that acts as a sequel.
really?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, it does have a, it's a rather, popular series at this point, so it has had some, further work done.
Yeah.
Yeah, plot synopsis. Probably should have written this down beforehand, but, so we open in Antarctica. There's an Antarctic Research Station, a US one, and a Norwegian helicopter is flying by and shooting at a dog for some reason. The dog ends up coming to the US base, and the Norwegian guy gets out, accidentally blows up his own helicopter, and ends up like shooting at the dog, accidentally shoots one of the US research team, and gets shot by someone else at the base. And, they're all like, this is weird, what's happening? And the one guy, who I think he's a researcher, I don't remember what his role was, takes the principal protagonist, who is the pilot, and they're like, we're gonna go over to the Norwegian base and see what was happening. So they do that, and, everything's weird there. It's like all blown up, everything's been set on fire, multiple, like, corpses, some of which have been brutally murdered. They find, like, a weird ice structure, and eventually they decide to take back their research, and, like, this weird corpse they found that's, like, looks kind of human, but not quite human. So they do that, they take it back, and in the meantime, the dog has been acting kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's kind of suspicious the whole time. And one of the crew members ends up taking the dog back to their, like, dog house where they have all the dogs. And when that happens, it reveals itself to be an alien and tries to, like, attack the other dogs. The whole crew's alerted of this, and they all come and are, like, having a standoff with the alien. Eventually, one of them gets the flamethrower and sets it on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing research. The doctor and a researcher are, like, mostly putting together stuff. They're, like, dissecting the bodies of the aliens, and the researcher ends up, like, finding out, like, putting into a computer, basically, that, like, oh, this alien means problems because it's, like, able to, like, not only shapeshift, but it's able to, like, replicate itself by infecting people.
Or animals, yeah.
And, he's, like, very, suspicious. Like, you see him acting kind of suspicious of people. And then, they're all kind of, like, hanging out. Stuff's weird.
Stuff's weird.
They're looking over the research and stuff. Eventually, they check the tapes, and the tapes, like, show what the Norwegians were doing, which is they were excavating something. They go out to the excavation site in the helicopter, and it turns out to be a giant spaceship that, judging by the, date of the ice, it was, thousands of years old. And the Norwegians had found the, alien in this ice, and it turned out to not be dead. So, and now they're dealing with the alien. So they get back. The one guy who was paranoid had gone on a rampage, and he's, like, destroyed basically all modes of transportation and completely broke the communications stuff.
Why did he do that?
Because he was paranoid about the thing getting out. Like, he had deduced, because he knows that scene where he's, like, looking at the computer and, like, typing stuff in, and the computer's like, oh, if this hits civilization, it'll kill everybody.
Yeah. Like, the entire world population will be, I think it said, like, 27,000 hours or something. That the entire world population would be, I guess, aliens or, infected, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, so he's like, oh, okay, we need to, the, like, communications weren't working in the first place because of the storm. Like, it just started being winter. But yeah, he decides, because he also kills all the dogs.
Yeah.
He's like, as we come to find out, the alien can like possess things and also like survive even after and infect people even after it's been like theoretically killed. So, he's just all sorts of paranoid, and he decides to do that to basically strand them there to prevent the alien from getting out.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, they lock him up for doing this, and then, they all start getting suspicious of each other, as they're like, well, we don't know who exactly is human still and who's been turned into a thing.
Yeah.
Because it's a shapeshifter, it could be any one of them. So they're all kind of, suspicious of each other, and they take, the doctor devises a method to test for, how to determine if something's a thing or not. And it requires, use of blood. He says, they're gonna take blood samples and mix them with, pre-existing blood, and if it reacts, they're an alien. If it doesn't, they're human. But when they go to do that, it turns out that, the, thing's already got into the blood and, destroyed all the blood bags. And so they're suspicious of the two people who would have had access to it, which is, the captain guy who shot, the Norwegian at the beginning of the film and the doctor. So, those two and the third guy end up being, tied up and placed under surveillance, a third guy that's suspicious. And so, they're doing that, and they're going out, and, as teams. One guy's doing more research, trying to figure out what the Norwegians knew. And the main guy is recording a message, and they end up, so the guy who's doing research ends up, finding, or, ends up seeing someone run by and run outside, and he follows them, and, he finds, a torn jacket. Oh, right, because it's determined that, when someone gets infected by a thing, the thing, rips their clothes, I guess, to, burst out of it.
Yeah.
And, he ends up finding a torn jacket belonging to, the, protagonist, the main pilot guy. And then he gets got immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
And so, they're, hanging out, and the guy, the main guy's like, hey, did anybody, use a flare? Where's the, one guy? It's like, oh, well, I guess he's, let's go look for him. They go out, they find his clothes burned up. Presumably he used the flare to, try to ignite himself and the thing.
Yeah.
And so they're all, super paranoid again that the thing's, got another one of them. See, something oh, right, his, house, his, whatever, the pilot's,
little shack.
Yeah, the light's on, and he didn't leave the light on, so he takes, him and one guy to go investigate. While that's happening, they get back, and, the one guy who went with him's like, I found his clothes ripped there, I don't think he saw me, I cut the line. So, he thinks he's been turned into a thing.
Yeah.
And, he ends up coming back, and, everybody thinks he's a thing, and he threatens to blow everybody up with bombs, because otherwise they're gonna try to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this whole, standoff here that happens, and eventually a thing does reveal itself, and they kill it. Well, mostly kill it. Oh, wait, I'm missing the part where the guy, is left alone with the corpse.
Oh, yeah.
And ends up, he thinks it's just a corpse, but once he's alone with it, the corpse, infects
starts
him.
moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyways, back to the, yeah, so they're all, upset, we think, is the protagonist guy the thing, or did the thing, plant this evidence to try to throw them off, knowing that he was in charge?
Yeah.
And, that head starts crawling, because they, get most of a guy.
Yeah, the guy gets, devoured, I guess you would say, and, his head rips off, and then, so his head's, on the floor, and it, out pops these, spider kind of legs, and these, I guess, maybe antenna, something like that, these, weird little knobby things. and it starts like crawling across the floor, and they're like the other guys are just standing there like staring at it, and then they end up like torching it.
Yep. And during all this, they find out the main protagonist like determines a method that he thinks is going to like find out who's a thing and who's not, which is take blood samples and like burn the blood, and if they're a thing, it'll react. So he starts doing this. In the meanwhile, one of the people's gotten paranoid about him and decides to attack him. But he has everybody tied up, and then he starts taking blood samples, and he starts like doing the blood. And at first, you don't know if like this is gonna work or not. But he ends up like finding out one of the things by getting the blood sample, which then like reveals itself to be a thing, kills somebody else.
Yeah.
And they're all like freaking out, but
they're torching everybody. It's crazy chaos.
Yeah,
Suspense,
but they do
very tense.
They do figure out that some of these people are humans, so they're like, okay, now we're gonna like try to root out what other like things remain. And they go to check on the guy who's like ended up destroying everything, who locked himself in the or no, they locked him in a shack.
Mm-hmm.
And like they go check on him, and the door's been opened, and they find out, oh, at some point he got turned into a thing, and he's at large.
Yeah.
And it's 3 of them that are remaining, and they leave one guy back at the base to like hole up in case the the guy comes out and he's a thing in that case. And during this he ends up like wandering out, so they're like, oh, that's weird, what happened there?
Yeah.
But eventually it's revealed that the thing sabotages the generator, because like at this point its plan is basically its plan previous was wait for rescue teams to come and slowly like turn everybody into into aliens.
Mm-hmm.
But now that it's that plan's been shot, it's gonna shut down the station's power, which will cause everybody to freeze to death, and the thing won't actually die if it's frozen. So when rescuers come, it'll be able to unthaw itself and proceed from there.
So they're trying to keep the temperature up so the thing doesn't freeze, and so they don't freeze.
Well, they decide they're gonna burn the whole place.
Yeah.
To, like, just try to catch the thing on fire while they're acting. Because the generator's, like, completely dead. They're not gonna be able to, survive at this point.
Yeah, they realize, and Kurt Russell's character says, we're not getting out of here alive, but neither is the thing.
Yep. So they do that, and while they're making a bomb to blow up the one section, and they've been setting everything else on fire. And while that's happening, the thing abducts one of the 3 remaining humans, and then the second one goes to investigate this and ends up disappearing too. And then there's a big final confrontation where the pilot guy does end up the thing ends up stealing the detonator, so they can't blow it up, but the pilot guy ends up blowing, setting the thing on fire. And then he goes over to sit down away from the fire, and the guy from earlier who had wandered off shows up, and they end talking to each other. And you're not sure, is he a thing? Did they get all the things,
Yeah,
and it just kind of ends there.
That's the end, and you're stuck wondering, did they survive? Did they save the planet by killing the thing, and are they gonna die? Is one of them or both of them the thing as well?
Yeah.
And they're sharing some alcohol and just talking well, we'll see,
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it ends. So it's definitely this story of, survival and who is it? Who does the thing have? Who's human? You don't know.
Yeah.
So I think that's what makes it terror inducing, but it's I like the ending. What did you think of the ending?
Yeah, the ending was good. I like that they both show up and neither of them sure the other one's the thing. Like, even to the end, they've
but they're
got
like
that paranoia.
resigned.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I like that, but I thought it was good. I honestly, I was sitting there like waiting to see like what happens, and then it just like ends, and I was
Yep.
like, oh, that was good. Like I thought that was, I like
Yeah,
that.
and that ambiguity of whether or not they got the last thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like that's super interesting. So, and I love the survival stories. I read a book recently that was like these high schoolers went on the ski trip and it's like snowy wilderness, and it kind of like evoked that for me. Like they're set on this like remote place. We don't know who's going to survive. And they're trying to figure out what this thing is and who has already been taken by the thing, So I just like those kinds of stories. I like that aspect of it.
Well, I mean, by the end, we know none of them survived, though.
I mean, you never know. Some like crazy helicopter could come out of nowhere and pick them up.
No.
I mean, you don't know.
Like,
I'm just saying.
It was saying, like, once these fires die down, the, temperature's gonna drop to the point that they're definitely dead. The humans are. The question is if they got the thing.
Yeah, that's the question mark is like, did they save civilization? And like, are there more things like buried around Antarctica, like, that are gonna come to life? Like, as the ice caps melt, global warming, I'm going a little far, but, you know what I mean? Like, there's just a lot of questions at the end, but I think like the ending was brilliant. It was just enough, of a resolution, but not really. And everything goes up in flames, and even like the flame, like the explosions, lots of explosions in this film, they looked so good. Like I think the effects on that were really good, which I mean, that I guess you wouldn't, do you call that effects? Like it looks like real
effects.
Okay, yeah, that were really good. All the fire and explosions I thought were really done well. And I love that they had like a torch, like I don't even know what you call it, like a fire torch. What do you call that?
The
torch?
the flares or the
no, like
flamethrower?
The flamethrower. That's what I was trying to say. I love that was like part of it. They're just like throwing flames everywhere. Like it just makes it more, I guess interesting, I would say, but just adds a little level of chaos too, where they're like flaming everything and destroying everything by fire when they're on this icy continent, like I like that part of it too. But yeah, so again, the thing is like this alien, which I mean, you don't know that until they actually, find the Norwegians base camp and see all
their
this
excavation.
Stuff. Yeah, so it's really it's interesting, and like you said, like the doctor like doing the dissection and seeing like it kind of like shape shifted type of membranes and tissue and all this stuff. Like it's interesting to see like one part of it kind of looks like a dog, another one looks like kind of human, like it was taking the shape of a face, it's like very interesting and creative, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely a really good premise. Like, you're saying, the survival thing, you're already in a, like, inhospitable situation.
Yeah.
And just, like, adding a shape-shifting alien to that mix, especially there's not many people, and it, like, really ratchets up the paranoia. You don't know, like, who's turned into a thing or not.
Yeah. So, I actually read that, and I don't know if this is correct, but, like, I was just, like, Googling stuff, but I read that, like, the movie flopped, and, like, one of the reasons cited was, like, it just didn't impress audiences, because you had other films, like E.T., Extraterrestrial, like, other kind of, like, alien films that did better, but I didn't know if that was accurate or not, that the film flopped. So, I thought that was interesting, because it has, I would say, a cult following, like,
yeah,
now, so I thought that was kind of crazy to read that it may have flopped and then it became like cinema gold, as I said,
Yeah, this is definitely considered like a classic horror film.
Yeah.
Like this day and age, it's definitely like, in the horror canon, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, here's the thing it says. It says the film grossed $19.6 million during its theatrical run.
What's his budget? Looking it up, 15 million. So that's not like a, they didn't lose money, but that's not like a great return. But I don't know, like, what the, if that was considered like a failure commercially back in the 80s.
Yeah, I don't know. And it says that, like, in this next paragraph I'm reading, it has been reappraised as one of the best science fiction horror films ever made, and it has gained a cult following. So, yeah,
so
I think that's accurate.
Maybe audience reception was poor, even if it didn't, like, lose money.
Yeah, it might have been one of those things. I mean, it was gory and explosive, but it might have been one of those things where, like, it just wasn't appreciated at its time.
Yeah.
But as people re-examined it, they were like, this is really good. Like, it's really good cinema, So maybe that's what happened. But thought that was kind of cool to read that, like, you're right. It's in that canon now, but then it didn't do so well. So, and you know what this kind of reminded me of? I know you haven't watched Dawson's Creek, but but that was popular when I was younger. And in Dawson's Creek, like, the characters, there's one character in particular who's, like, obsessed with cinema, and films and all that kind of stuff. And so, like, it just reminded me of that. Like, this is totally the kind of film that they would be talking about on Dawson's Creek. So, had to bring in that late 90s, early 2000s reference there.
I'm sure there's many TV shows that reference this.
Yeah, there's gotta be. Yeah, so I thought it was good. Like, it was definitely a good watch. I really was surprised because I was, like, not interested in this genre. I thought it was going to be, like, really cheesy. And while it did have some cheese for sure, I just thought, I liked it. I was very surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I see why people like this movie a lot, especially, like, if they're big into practical effects.
Yeah.
And the, like, sort of, creature design aspects of, like, horror films from this era. Yeah, so that's, the thing. Yeah, like, I like the, like, paranoia between the characters. I think that's, like, well written, like, the audience is never sure who to trust, and, like, neither of the characters at any point, they're always kind of suspicious of each other.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess they find out who's human at the end, but then, like,
Right.
At the end, it's still, you're not sure.
Yeah. I love that. It's like, because there's only so many people there. You're in this, like, enclosed space of the camp. And, of course, there's outside too, but you're, in this remote environment again, and everybody's just paranoid and, like, kind of feeding off of each other's paranoia. And that's always makes a good horror film.
Yep.
In my opinion.
Yeah, so, anything else to add, or, is that it?
Yeah, I think this was a good kickoff to our series of creepy films that we're going to be watching for October and Halloween season. Yep. So I enjoyed it. All right, well, I'll take us out. This has been Beach View, your podcast with all sorts of things and or stuff. Listen next time. Bye.
Bye.